today with more kids crafts. This time we're going to be taking a look at how to transform the milk carton into a house. We're going to take the standard size because that is the one that most people have. Though if you have the tall, thin carton, you can use that. Or this little guy, little creamer, that works just fine too. And if you have all three, great, because that makes for a pretty awesome village with some good variety. So that's the idea, is to make a little town. So you can use figurines that you have or that you make to live inside of this world. All right, are you ready? All right, so most importantly, you need to make sure that your carton is properly cleaned out so we don't have any old milk mold or smell coming from this, okay? That's number one. Number two is to make sure if you have a spout that we remove that, unless you want to leave it as a skylight, you totally can. Though it's still a little easier to cut that off so we can put some paper over that later. Also, we're going to cut along this edge to have a big door opening. This part you may need help with. The next thing that you'll want to do is take the paper that you have and measure it against the house. So you can either use plain white paper, or if you have construction paper, you can use that too. If you want to get real fancy, you have leftover magazines that you can use those papers from too. You can do that. We're going to stick with the simple for today. So what I'm going to do is just use the white paper. Later we're going to draw on this, but for now what we want to do essentially is make sure that the paper fits. If anything, you want it to be a little bit bigger than this so we don't see the edges of the carton, but as you can see, it's a little too tall, right? And what I would like to do is measure for each side. So lay this down. So mark off where that is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just find that line, fold it, that way I know where to cut, and same with that top edge. All right. Now we also know that these are all the same size, right? Or they should be. So this makes it really easy. Once you have this piece of paper cut, then you can use that to measure the rest too. So we want 4 sides. Now we can use one of these pieces as a template. So put it on our next sheet of blank paper, trace around it. Now that we have that size, we're going to repeat the same steps that we did with the first paper. This saves us a little bit of time and possibly a headache. For this next part, I'm going to be using construction paper to make some windows, doors, and other accents for the house. You can also draw straight on the paper that you cut out for the walls with crayons, markers, or whatever you have. So I'm going to do a little combination. We'll start with the construction paper. The way I'm showing you here is to cut the paper first, then draw. But what can be a lot easier is just to draw on the paper first, make sure you've got your good outlines, and then cut it out. The difference in the way that I'm showing you is when you fold it like this, that makes it a little bit easier to know that your windows are all going to be the same size. Another thing to think about is, as much as you can, try to plan out your drawing for before you start gluing those pieces. So if I'm drawing on my window here, that's the best way to do it before I start adding glue to the back. You can get away with doing a little drawing on top of a piece of paper that has wet glue underneath, but it is a lot harder. Most of the time, if that's the case, it's good to wait at least a day before going back and doing any drawing on top of it. Not all houses have the house numbers on them, or at least not over the front door, but I'm going to add some here. So we want to put some extra detail so that this looks like a real house that somebody lives in. I'm going to pick the number 62, just because. The next part that I'm going to add are the shutters. Again, not every house has shutters, but I like them, and it makes our house look a little bit more interesting.
Before I glue this shutter down, I'm deciding to add a few lines onto this to make it look more real so people know what it is. Now we have our beautiful window. Check it out. A nice door. And a few more windows. We are all ready. The next little thing I'm gonna do is add some grass at the bottom. As you can see here, a little better now. Throw in some blades of grass. Then some flowers. It's gonna be great. You can choose to add whatever you like. If you want to draw on your house a little bit more, maybe you've got a mural on the side of your house. You can definitely do that too. I just like to have my happy little garden and a few little bugs that live there. Now for some more gluing. Once we have these pieces done, we are going to adhere them to our house. So put the glue on the milk carton, then make sure it's all over. Then we'll press each piece down. So again, make sure you get the sides and the center like we usually do. Then I'm gonna go around and touch up the edges here, as you can see. Another thing you can do, which I like to do also, is add some Scotch tape at the end over those seams so they're really sealed up tight. All right, so we've got a red roof this time. What you see me doing here is measuring this. So I'm trying to make sure that I have enough paper to fit each side of the roof. This piece, of course, is way too long. So now that I have that paper a little bit more of a manageable size, I am measuring the length. So I have it going a little bit past the house on the left side, and I want to do the same on the right. So I'm pinching it here so I can mark, I know I want at least that much, and I'm going to fold it so that I don't lose that place. Now I can cut it. Looks pretty good. The last part left for the roof is to make some nice shingles. If you're into these kind of recycle projects, someone else that you might want to check out is the Revival Society. They make lots of cool sustainable goods and they craft it all themselves. All right, going more with the gluing here at our roof. Now we need that little triangle in there. This is a tricky one to get. So I'm going to take the piece that's already a corner, put it in that spot, crease it right where that ends. And we know we need one for each side, so I'm just going to fold that over. Mark it off. And cut along those lines. And of course the center line so that we have two pieces. Add your glue and press it down.
Now you have a simple milk carton house. Now you just have to make the inside. Thanks for creating this with me. I can't wait to do the next one with you.